Welcome to the Off Label Podcast, your twice weekly dose of sanity in an insane world. Look, tonight's going to be a little different. I got something I need to get off my chest, and I've been talking about it for a while. We're going to sit down and actually have this conversation. Look, with the collapse of the mainstream media's hold over the people happening right before our eyes right now, Americans are starting to pay attention in massive different ways, and they're starting to catch on to certain things that are actually happening within our government, within our country, and how the story is not what they're saying it is when you take a look at everything happening. As much as a punishment we take and accountability definitely has to be a must in this country for the things we've gone through, the things we've been pushed to be involved in, the best place to start is always from the top down. Okay. With the border crisis, informational warfare, psychological warfare, the political and financial warfare as well that we have seen in our country, we need to ask the biggest question first. Is our government committing treason? Let's start the show.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
Now recognize Mr. Carroll for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Chairman Higgins, Ranking Member Correa, Chairman Bishop, Ranking Member Ivey, and the members of the subcommittee, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the evil of child trafficking caused by the open border policies under President Joe Biden and his administration. I served in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years until I retired as a Deputy Patrol Agent in charge in San Diego sector. I worked under 5 presidential administrations, and only one president secured the border, President Donald Trump. Border Patrol agents went from working and being supported by the greatest border president in American history to the worst, President Joe Biden. My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year in office. On his first day in office, I watched in disbelief as 94 executive orders cascaded down from Washington, D.C., obliterating every immigration policy that had been provided the most secure border in America's history. Border Patrol agents were forced to carry out unconstitutional orders that violated every law in the Immigration Nationality Act. President Biden, through Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, created policy out of thin air, ignored federal immigration law, and facilitated the largest mass invasion into America that the world has ever seen. The United States of America will have spent hundreds of billions of dollars in 4 years to fund the needs of over 50 million illegal aliens that populate our nation. Between 1 in 6 and 1 in 7 residents in America is an illegal alien. America has suffered the greatest demographic shift in modern history. After serving in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years, spending a year researching and writing a best-selling book entitled Invaded, The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System, and filming 2 documentaries, I state with complete certainty that Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas intentionally, strategically, and purposely weaponized illegal immigration and used it as a tool to fundamentally transform America. Inside this invasion, the unspoken evil of child trafficking, and more specifically, child sex trafficking, has flourished At the end of this current administration, the number of children trafficked will have grown to over 550,000 unaccompanied alien children known as UACs. This horrific number of children will have been arrested, released into America, and then lost. To put this into context, during President Trump's last year in office, Customs and Border Protection arrested 30,557 UACs who were accounted for and not lost. Conversely, in the first year of Biden's presidency, CBP arrested 147,975 UACs, most of which are unaccompanied for and lost. In 2023, Congressional Hearings Health and Human Services Javier Becerra and Director of Office of Refugee Resettlement Robin Marcos forced to admit that their agency had no contact with over 85,000 UACs. They were lost. What did DHS, HHS, and ORR do to correct this humanitarian disaster? Nothing. In fact, all three agencies created further policies and procedures to increase the efficiency of moving UACs from the border to the interior of the United States to unknown and unvetted sponsors. Unaccompanied alien children were being handed off to total strangers. Then they disappeared into the darkness of labor and sex trafficking. In fact, a year later, in August of 2024, the Inspector General with oversight over DHS issued a report stating the number lost UACs was not 85,000, it was over 320,000. My business partner, Ryan Matt, and I spent 6 months traveling across America, filming a documentary titled, "What is Treason Trafficked?" The evil of child sex trafficking is difficult to digest and understand. However, after conducting numerous interviews with officers, agents, and whistleblowers from every alphabet agency and department, it was made clear to us that the federal government knowingly and actively facilitated these criminal acts. After several exhaustive months of filming, interviewing, and then editing this documentary, I state without reservation that the United States federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. The probability that thousands of these UACs are being raped at this very moment is 100%. The call to action has 3 parts, my call to action, and they're swift, and they happen at the same time. Every means necessary is to be taken to ensure all 4 borders of the United States of America are sealed shut. 2, there's a national law enforcement emergency to locate and rescue every single one of the 550,000 unaccompanied alien children that are lost. 3, a full-scale investigation of every U.S. department, agency, and every NGO participating in this criminal act shall be launched, and every person involved shall be arrested. Finally, the intentional opening of our borders is an act of treason. I encourage questions, so I may further articulate this allegation. Thank you.
I feel like we're going to go ahead and further articulate this allegation tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Mr. Joe Sweeney, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Go ahead and tell everybody about yourself so somebody may not know in our chat who you are.
Sure. I'm retired from the federal government. I am a former bureaucrat. I have 35 years in federal service. I did 4 years at the United States Military Academy. Then I served for 6 years as an airborne ranger qualified infantry officer. And then I served, I got out of the Army, went to law school, went right back into government, and did 25 years as a lawyer in the Central Intelligence Agency in their Office of General Counsel.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I'm about to get my ass handed to me tonight, but it's going to be fun. We also have Scott with us tonight because Davey's internet is down. We were going to have Scott on as well with Davey, but
yeah. But yeah, his internet took a shit tonight, so yeah.
Yeah, he's over there in Rumble there for us. But how you doing, Scott?
Not too bad. Interested in this conversation tonight. Excited to talk about a few things with this. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, before we get started, what'd you think about the kids missing?
It's not surprising, especially at the end. The ending is not surprising to me. I just got to say that. Whenever you said that the federal government is the biggest trafficker of all.
I mean, 325,000 kids missing at last reporting, and that was a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened literally at the beginning of this year. I heard 67,000. And then what, back in September, October, something like that, they were saying, hey, this is 324,000 missing kids now.
Well, and that was that's one of the big things for me when it comes to anything about any sort of like, if we want to schedule or make any sort of legislation toward anything like that when it comes to kids. That's the whole reason why I even jumped on Trump's bandwagon or train or anything else, is because when he first got in, one of the first things he signed was what was it, Project Talon? One of the biggest things that was going toward assigning all federal power as much as possible toward stopping trafficking. That
Right.
was like, for me, that's like, all right, I'm on your side. You got me. All right, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. What do you think about that, though, Sweeney? I mean, is that surprising to you? You were the gutter underbelly of everything. So,
No, it's not surprising to me at all. I don't think it's a big secret that the Biden-Harris administration purposefully opened up the border to skew the electorate, right? They wanted as many illegal immigrants as they could get into this country in the expectation that those new arrivals would vote for the Democratic Party and help keep them in power. And entire families were coming, and with that was coming children. And they didn't want to keep a track of anybody, because they don't want anybody tracked down. They just want them settled in, seated. I don't know this for a fact. My speculation would be that they probably tried to get these folks into swing states, knowing how they work. And so, no, I'm not surprised by any of this.
oh yeah, yeah, they're in swing states in different areas. They're in deep red states. Like, seriously, Texas. It was literally, it was what Houston that was reporting in first, but Texas was blue for a long ass time, and they voted heavy very
Right.
quickly. And then I was just like, I saw Kamala sitting there saying that Texas is going to be one of her targeted states, and the things we've come across, which I'm going to run across Sweeney here too, just to kind of prove a little bit more of a point. Let me ask you about this, Sweeney. When he was saying those 93 orders that came down right away that decimated the border, not all of them were for the border, but one of them was this. Nice title, right? Executive Order on Promoting Access to Voting.
Right.
You know what this does?
No, I've never seen this before.
This gives every agency, say for about 5 or 6, every agency within the federal government, the ability to register you to vote without your knowledge. They were supposed to have a plan together, like at the end of 2022 or something, as to how to implement this on a massive wide scale event. Congress can't get their hands on these plans for these agencies. Now, I think we figured out how the fuck they actually did it. This is the Help America Vote verification system. Okay, what this is the Help America Vote Act, HAVA. Okay, what that does is that allows people to register to vote with the last 4 digits of their social security number and last name instead of a picture ID, valid government picture ID. Okay. This information tracks back all the way to roughly around mid 2016 that I've tracked back myself. And certain states, like you said, they were going to red states. Certain states were chosen for this shit. And I'll show you. But let me ask you a question. Week ending October 19th of 2024. Notice, well, it doesn't show up, but they do not have anything else to drop after that. This is a weekly, bi-weekly kind of situation, the way the states actually roll this out. In Arizona, 97,471 people tried to register to vote for the very first time in their life with their last 4 digits of their social security number and last name. Out of those 97,000, 31,121 didn't know their information, or they got it wrong. Out of the 66,350 that remained, 43 were dead. when they tried to register to vote for the first time. Does that sound weird to you, brother?
Oh, yes. I think it sounds weird to any reasonable person.
Mm-hmm.
Now that was where was that? That was just in Arizona. What really sent me into a little rage and kind of got me calling my governor was in August. I think it was August 10th. Yeah. In August 10th, Alabama, 3,931. Okay. So let's just say 4,000 people. Out of that, damn near half of them, a little over half, 25% didn't know their information. I refuse to believe that. We are idiots down here. Yes, 100%. But I refuse to believe that. Out of the 2,645 that remained, 461 were dead.
That's kind of ridiculous.
There is no pandemic going on. You can't say this was COVID. But what pointed it out is at the very beginning of this year, I think it was February 10th of 2024. Yeah, Texas. Texas reports every 2 weeks. So these are 2 weeks time, right? 218,922 tried to register to vote for the very first time. Out of that, 39,231 didn't know their information. 4,450 of them were dead.
And, in order to keep these statistics, the government must know who those 218,922 people are. It would be very interesting if they had someone actually investigate and reach out to all of those 218,000 people, because my guess would be a significant portion of them had no idea that someone had registered them, and they would say, I didn't register. I didn't do that.
I mean, there were reports all over Twitter of people saying, hey, I've never registered to vote. I got this email saying that my ballot is being processed. I don't even want to vote this year. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a thing. And this, to me, looking at these numbers, these spikes, look, Pennsylvania went through it. Looking at the spikes and everything in these number systems, it's been going on for a while. I'll even take it way back into time. Let's go back to January 25th of 2020. You're going to sit there and tell me after the election, where is it? Oh, that wasn't that bad. Not that one. What was that one? That was January 25th. Let's go back before 2020. Let's go October 26th, 2019. Let's see. California, 5,948. 2,400 didn't even know their information.
Yeah, it's half, almost half.
Yep. Illinois, 31,836. 2,500 didn't know their information. 68 were dead. I mean, it was spikes like this where it was just like, it don't make sense. We're getting close up to election season, but it don't make sense when you're doing that. I tracked this all the way back to 2016, like midway through 2016. They were targeting places like Kansas. They were targeting places like Missouri. They were going after deep red states as far as the number goes, until this shit got called out and everybody was like, hey, what is this? We need to talk about this. Texas said, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. We've only registered 57,000 people this year, this election cycle. I don't know what you're talking about. And then come to find out, everybody's starting to look into these roles that people are getting, because let me ask you a question, Mr. Sweeney. Now, if you're voting within an election, right? You register to vote. When you got to do this paper signing and everything like that to get that registration to actually register, where does that signature come from?
The pen that's in my hand?
Okay. Now, if the government registers you to vote without your knowledge, where does that signature come from?
I would think that there would be no signature, or it would be one of those auto signatures. It would just happen with a computer, like happens these days when you do documents online.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that could be a thing too. You're right. Because I mean, I can't. how can you really prove that I was the one that typed those words out, you know?
Right.
Oh, didn't even
Which is
think about that myself.
yeah,
But
and if that's what's happening, it's kind of brilliant, right? I mean, if you're looking to skew
Yeah.
elections, it's a pretty damn smart way to do it.
even if
Yeah.
you're talking about like physical ballots and everything with the paper trail, the signature verification, some states don't do well on it. Arizona, I'm calling you the fuck out. But yeah, like the signature verification and everything on that. How is that signature found?
Yeah, I would think that
Mm.
in the States, they probably go back to something like the driver's license to compare the signature, or maybe your income taxes, because those are just two things off the bat that come to mind where the state would have my signature.
Well, on your ballot is the envelope and the actual ballot itself with mail in. Okay. So here's my thinking with it. While they're processing these people that are coming across the border, they don't know what they're signing. They don't know what these paperworks are. They don't know this. All these people have to do is put your name here, put your name here, put your name here, put this person's name here because they are your sponsor here in the United States. And that's the election form.
That's possible.
And then if you actually go to register to vote for the first time, because you're not knowing what the hell is going on, it's the first time you're really trying to do this, you go to register. Hey, I'm already registered. Cool. Then you go to vote that day. Turns out your vote is actually kicked out because an illegal immigrant put their name on your paperwork. Didn't even know they did it because somebody else told them this is your sponsor. Put down that name.
I think you should be in the election fraud business.
So
And
I'm thinking.
I say that
I'm
because
also thinking like toward banks and everything else. Like, how many times records have been leaked out from places that might have your signature?
the fucking IRS leaked your social security numbers.
Yeah, that's why I'm like working at where else can we get it from besides just thinking like that? Because well, like, look, there's plenty of places where you're giving your signature where it looks like absolute dog shit that nobody can read it to where it's still counted as yours. You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Thank you, Jennifer.
because those electronic things you can never get your signature right. It just
Right.
does not look good. So it's like
Right.
you can almost sign anything you want as long as it has like one or two of your letters, and it's gonna kind of be like, did he do it or not? Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you for the $1, not the chart there from Jennifer. Let's talk about treason and how it can be spotted. We're kind of rolling it into this right now with that
Mhm.
because I wanted to bring up how I figure everything went to him, and it kind of seems like it's a good thought process to follow here because he approves of how this is rolling out so far. I'm not having my ass handed to me, but yeah, I wanted to bring this up as well because like this right here, this is something that got me. After 2020 happened, that spiked in Joe Biden's count and everything like that. They had the balls to come out here and run this. This was how they fortified the election by running ballot harvesting and just kind of suppressing candidates from different areas and just going out and talking to people. The ground game the Democratic Party has always had. Just ramp the fuck up, right?
It's like there's no such thing as a shadow government. Then the fucking media is like, hey, write an article on the shadow government.
Right.
Like,
and then
my
there's
bad.
this. There's this
Not
one
weird.
right here that goes with that. It kind of backs up the 2000 Mules story. Okay, this ex-Atlantic City Council president charged in voter fraud scheme. What this guy was doing, I've brought it up multiple times, but what he was doing
Mhm.
was he would hire people to go out and gather ballots that had signatures and nothing else. And then they would bring it to him, and his people would fill the ballots out, and then he would hire other people to go stuff ballot boxes like the 2000 Mules, right? Now, in everything you can find out about this man, it's very, very weird to see, other than the fact that you're trying to cover up a connection.
You see Rhonda's comment down there? Her vote didn't count because her signature didn't match hers. So she's one that actually happened to.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's messed up. But
Mhm.
in this right here, it goes through his past, how he's done, he got in this in about 2003, everything leading up. He's not really leaning towards one kind of person. It's just somebody who brings them on. But I have to question if you got like a win record of 98% behind you, somebody needs to question what you're doing, you know? And he did
Yeah,
help Van Drew get elected in 2022. But every reporting that you can find about this man, not a bit of it mentions his connection in 2020. However, in the court documents, it's not openly admitted, but he does imply in there are people around him. He didn't take the stand, but some of the witnesses implied that he had an involvement in 2020. But it's in no other reporting.
Yeah, the media doesn't want you to know that.
Mm-hmm.
And with that kind of thing, I would have to say one of the biggest things as far as levying war against the people would be taking away your vote. You got the government voting for itself, taking away the Americans, people, right? What this country was founded on, to have at least a say in how our government functions. You take that away, you are levying war against the people, are you not?
I think as a policy matter, that's a good argument. As a technical legal matter, you got to be careful, because if you open that door, think of all the criminal violations that could be treated as treason. And
Mhm.
so, and I think this
Mm-hmm.
is a good example, because voter fraud is already illegal, right? There's a law against it,
Mhm.
and of course, the executive would have to actually care about it and enforce it. But that criminal law already exists. Um, when you're looking at the treason laws, and most of your viewers probably do not know this, treason is the only criminal law that is embedded into the Constitution. The
Yes.
only one.
Mm-hmm.
The only one. And the reason it's there, in part because it's a very serious crime, but the reason it's there is because the British government, the king, the crown, was abusing that criminal law. And that's why embedded right into the Constitution is that there needs to be at least two witnesses to an overt act, or you need to admit to it in open court. I mean, that's right in the Constitution, and that's to prevent the government from abusing the treason law to put political people in jail. And
Right.
so, my approach would be to limit the application of treason. Although as a policy matter, I would agree with you that it's taking pretty heinous action to undermine the rights of American people and to undermine our country and our Constitution. But that would be my take on that.
Well, I sit there and say that myself. It's because it's kind of, you want to open the door to that. Well, okay, let's get into the actual definition of it. Per the Constitution, treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them being the people, being the Constitution of the United States. There ain't no damn way you're going to sit there and tell me the founding fathers said levying war against the founding fathers. It's not a thing. It's the people. They were always about the people that they were supposed to take care of.
Right.
But, or in adhering to their enemies, or changes the actual version of this. Like everybody's like, oh, it has to be war
Right.
because levying war, or changes the game, or means giving an alternative to, which means, hey, you can levy war against, alternatively, you can adhere to my enemies and give them aid and comfort. When you
Now,
open up the border and you let things like Trinidad come in, you have other countries having control, having at least a little bit of say in our elections. When you do these things, when you dilute and water down or even take away the right of the American people to have a say in how their government functions, you are levying war against. It's literally like the informational warfare we've seen for the past couple of years, where they told you Biden was sharp as a tack. Everything's great. Look, January 6th was so horrible. Nothing ever fucking happened. Meanwhile, they
Well-
told you that peaceful protesters that were trying to burn down the White House were gassed so Trump could take a building with an upside down Bible, or Trump could take a photo with an upside down Bible. next to a burnt down church.
Just like, because we were talking about this the other day, like we were kind of going through either whether it was this or else were we talking about sedition, whether
Yeah.
these were seditious acts or if they could be. So I'm kind of on the mind of like, out of the way that Joe is kind of explaining. I don't think it's necessarily levying war against, but it's definitely seditious. I'll say that, at least in my mind in ways. I don't know about exactly necessarily treasonous. I mean, if you want to get down to something like that, Eric Swalwell and his yum yum, that would be
I mean, he
more
gave her
treasonous than
aid and
anything.
comfort. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
So did 4 other Democratic officials and 2 unnamed Midwestern mayors that nobody ever wants to talk
Hey,
about.
I'm
Yeah.
not one to point a finger. Given the opportunity, I might have levied her a little comfort as well.
Right.
But no, I mean, it's just this kind of thing that gets me is like, here's the real thing. Like, treason doesn't apply to anybody that hasn't taken the oath. It says whoever, owing allegiance to, which means you've taken that oath. And me and Scott were talking about this before. You know, you've taken that oath. You took the oath of office to step into the political or to DC altogether. You took the oath of office when you went into the military. You took the oath pretty much anything government related. So if you do anything to give aid and comfort, say open our borders and let anybody unvetted in so that Tren de Aragua is running through supposedly all 50 states, and it's like the dude in that Kerry Lake thing we're going to bring up here in a second said, yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and it's also the words of the oath are important to me because I've taken those oaths many times, and part of the language is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic.
Right.
And so I think you're right. I agree with you that throwing the border open the way they did, absolutely a violation of the oath. It's also a violation of one of the clauses in Article 2. Article 2 governs the executive branch, and it says that the executive shall take care to ensure that the laws are properly enforced. Biden absolutely did not do that.
No, he fought Texas to keep it open.
Yes. Yep. Good point. And so the oath was absolutely violated. Whether there was a violation of criminal law is a separate point, and whether there was treason is yet another separate issue. And I do think you can't gloss over the term war, right? Levying war. That definition, that word had a meaning, right? And war is it's an official act, right? There are declarations of war. And so I do think the way the word was intended was when the United States is at war, and we're currently not at war. And so I'm not saying laws weren't violated. They absolutely were. I would say the oath was violated. I would say it probably did not technically rise to the level of treason, even though as a practical matter, at the policy level, it is in my mind treasonous conduct not to enforce the laws and to throw the border open, and all for the mere purpose of retaining power. That's what all this is about at the end of the day. Gaining power and retaining power at all costs.
But I will throw this back at you. As far as you said, okay, it's in wartime and everything like that. Cool.
One thing I want to mention though too is also when it comes to the voting stuff though, I just had to throw that out there, is that the states where she did win just happened to not have voter ID.
Yeah, how about that?
How about that? True. Yeah, just say it. So it throws a little credence into what we were talking about with the voting thing, and yeah.
But I mean, as far as that goes, like levying war against, okay, just like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. They didn't say the right to bear muskets. They didn't say anything. The right to bear arms, whatever your government has, you should have. This is scary to think that a person could have a nuclear fucking weapon. I agree that they should. I don't think they should. It's a weird position to be in because I know what I would do with it. And it's not good. You know,
Yeah,
I'm sitting in the middle
we're
of
not even gonna let you have an M1 Abrams tank. You're not
right.
getting an F-16. You're
All right. Well, then what does it come down to? It's always down to that saying. It's like whatever you want to be able to have, as far as wielding power, government, mechanical, anything like that. Think of that same thing in the hands of your enemies. That's the
Right. That's
when it
that's
comes
what I
down to
do.
stuff
When I
like that.
look at
Yeah.
myself and I just be like, "Oh my god, what would I do with it? Well, I
Yeah.
could do this." See, that's why you shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'd just be like in the middle of traffic. I got a nuclear bomb in my console. Just be like, too many stupid people have pissed me off today. We're all going to hell.
Button.
You know,
You know,
that
this
way.
is this is a bit of a tangent, but I talk about this in my book. The more I thought about it, back in the colonial era, at the time of our Revolutionary War, the biggest form of tyranny, right? How tyranny manifested, right down was at the point of a bayonet, right? It was the king's
Right.
standing army. That is how force got
Yeah. Yeah.
was put
Monopoly
into
on
action,
violence.
right? And
Yeah.
so in those days, um, and that was why people wanted the right to bear arms to protect themselves against the king's standing army.
Mhm.
And understandably, given that the fact that the crown was quartering troops in colonial America, forcing people to house soldiers in their homes, and the soldiers were there to make sure those ruffian Americans were paying their taxes. And so that's how it was back then. Today, I don't think it is. The biggest threat to tyranny today, when I thought about it, and again, this is what I put in my book, is not from a bayonet, it's from a badge,
Right.
right? It's law enforcement. And that's where the greatest threat to tyranny is today. And I'm not anti-law enforcement. I'm pro-law enforcement. I have many friends and family members who are cops in cities, counties, state troopers. They need to be properly armed. They need to be properly equipped. It's a dangerous world and they got tough jobs.
Right.
But it is also the case that is the greatest threat today to liberty, and that is how tyranny manifests today. It is with a badge, a subpoena, and a search warrant. And just look at
Mm.
how the Trump administration was targeted, right from
Yep.
2016 all the way up through the raid of Mar-a-Lago, the searches, the subpoenas, and the eventual
I get,
indictments, all
I get what
through
you're saying.
law enforcement.
How
I get
many
what you're
people
saying.
did they?
At first I was like, what does he mean? But I get what you're okay.
How many
But
people?
it's the abuse of the power. It's the use of
Right.
it and just being wielded willy nilly.
How
Just to
many
like
people did?
intimidation. It's not right.
Yeah, and it
How
was
many
early.
people did? Hold on. How many people did we see in the news that were they were just like the FBI is out on a manhunt for this J6 felon? Like they were literally manhunting somebody down who walked into the Capitol that day.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
this was not a minor investigation. They were using the same tools that we would use in counterterrorism and counterespionage, right? They were looking at cell phone records, cell
FISA?
tower records, all the very intrusive collection authorities that the federal government has were brought to bear for a group of rioters who got out of control, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the last time I was on the show, was it Glenn we were talking to?
Right.
Yeah, and Glenn was just there because he wanted to protest, and
Right.
he just was following people who walked into the Capitol building. He wasn't a vandal. He didn't break anything. He just walked in, and he got prosecuted for that, and heavily prosecuted. And so there was
See,
no,
Glenn's in the chat.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, he just got off not too long ago for everything that went down with him. You know, he
And
just got off
remember,
probation.
and remember, they can ping your location like all the way to fucking Alaska. Whenever they found that couple that wasn't even actually there, they can find the wrong people even. But guess what? They can't use any of that information on the 1,000 mules and all the people that fucking did all those all the ballots and stuff that were false. They can't use that information. Oh no.
I
Even
think
No,
those are
You
great
remember
points.
whenever that happened, even Quiznos came out and was like, we can ping a house, but you
right.
can't you can't use this? Like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
those
Yeah.
those are great points, right? Because you look at all the investigative techniques that they brought to bear just to go after the people on J6, and why? It's because they were conservative. That's why,
Mhm.
right? And yet they can't find any of the illegal immigrants. They just can't find them, right? Give me a break. It's all about where you allocate your resources.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, well, shit. But yeah, I got derailed, and I wanted to bring that back to a point. But like I was saying, with 2A, the right to bear arms, it meant literally everything because they knew warfare would change. Okay,
Well, that I was gonna say,
and it
yeah,
has.
it's literally vague, so it's like you can't really like put a
Right,
restriction on. That's why everybody is so hell bent on, which I agree with, is the shall not be infringed. That's
right.
why
But
everybody's like shall not be infringed, motherfucker. That's why they get like that,
warfare
is because that's what it means, you know?
warfare comes in many different ways, though. I mean, you got
Yeah.
psychological warfare, you got financial warfare, you got political warfare, you got informational warfare, which is the biggest one we've been fighting ourselves. That is warfare in itself. When you were telling the people, when you were having mainstream media backed up by government dollars, telling the people blatant 100% lies to get them to literally riot and burn down the country for 2 of 3 years of a president before a lockdown happened. Like, huh? Like that's warfare in of itself because it's psychological warfare on the people because they're believing these lies. You know, especially um the Floyd I want
Oh,
to say
George Floyd.
George Floyd. I wanted to say Floyd Mayweather, but that's not exactly
Hands up, don't shoot.
right.
Mhm.
You know, Darnell Brooks, Breonna Taylor, all these people, it all turned out to be a lie. And people got
Yeah.
out there, they got violent, they destroyed things, they killed people. That is living war against the people in an informational way, in a psychological way, because you're not giving them the real information, and psychologically, or you are fucking them up to do your bidding.
I agree with all that, right? They're controlling you. They are controlling the message and not interested in truth at all. And so they're really just trying to tell you how to think and how to
Right?
feel, and it works,
Do
right?
you think
Look at the last couple decades. It works.
do you think in 2013 part of the Smith-Mundt Act had something to do with the
Ah,
media being so heavy-handed in this now too?
I
I
go back.
mean
Go ahead.
it's basically because I mean, he made it more legal to do it. We were already doing it before then, probably, but do you think that might have been a big turning point toward like the new era? Because Obama was basically not totally, but in ways the modern day FDR, because FDR is the one who wanted the second Bill of Rights and shit.
right.
He was a commie. Let's just be honest. So he was more the one he came ushered in. He ushered himself in as very smooth talking, very nice and all that shit. But we all know that he is a Marxist. He's been seen reading plenty of books like After America and stuff like that. You know that he's not about the way it in him doing that. It's kind of like him doing that in 2013, redoing the Smith-Mundt Act, being able to put more propaganda in areas. Do you think that maybe that has a big fucking levering action toward our
It,
media being even more
I,
controlled which I know you were a CIA lawyer, but the CIA has definitely been involved in the media and stuff like that. So do you think
so
that that's more of a heavy-handed lever action toward putting it more in there?
So a couple things. One, I agree with you that FDR was kind of the original elitist progressive,
Yeah.
right? He was the one who first suggested packing the Supreme Court with additional justices. That was
Yep.
FDR because he didn't
Mhm.
like the fact that they were conservative.
Yep.
He,
He's like, we can't get this done.
he brought us Social Security. How on earth is that constitutional, right? But it's so
Yeah.
embedded in our culture today, we're never going to get rid of it.
Right.
So I agree with all that. And I would bring it back a little further to a Supreme Court case called New York Times versus Sullivan, where the
Mhm.
Supreme Court said, and this is where a newspaper was getting sued, and they said, well, in order to get damages, you would have to prove actual malice. It's not enough that they were negligent.
Yeah.
It's not enough that they were grossly negligent. It's not
Yes.
even enough that they were willfully negligent. They
Mhm.
had to have actual malice, which is a very high standard to prove. I would love to see the court revisit that and
Yes.
lower that standard.
I would too.
That's probably not going to happen, but that is something that I would like to see happen. And yes, I do. I have worked in the area of propaganda. I talk about this in my book. I use real world examples from things that have happened in the last couple of decades surrounding Trump to point by point show how the media was working as a propagandist in trying to tell people what to think, controlling the information, controlling their minds. So I agree with all that. Now, the CIA is legally prohibited from conducting propaganda against the American people.
Right.
And I won't get into whether or not any propaganda was being done during my time. But what I say in the book is, and this is true, I taught covert action, which is when there is conduct of the United States government where the government is trying to hide its hand while it's attempting to influence political, economic, and military conditions abroad. But I taught that to CIA operations officers. And I also studied historical covert actions. And part of covert action is covert influence, which is propaganda. So I know it when I see it, and I see it every day. And I see it, 90% of it comes from the left. Some of it is on the right too, but it's a very small percentage compared to the fact. I mean, just line up the media entities.
Right.
Well, I will tell you this, the shit that happens on the right, it's not that they're giving you bad information. It's they're giving you the information way too fucking late. They're
not as good. They're not as good.
Well, it's not that. It's not that. It's not that at all. There are groups around this country. I lead 7 other people that go through media sources. Like they just scour them. They find whatever little things, anything that they're good in. Like me, I do the Senate and House hearings. I go through all that shit. I listen to what our officials say. So if something's not jiving correctly or they fumble here, I'm the one calling that kind of shit out to other people. We get paid when they give all their information to somebody. Hey, this story comes out because of this, and this. They're pulling all information. They're sourcing everything. They give it to the talking heads, especially the independents. And they give it to the talking heads, and the talking heads, they buy up the stories. And they pull out from the story what they want to talk about. The right does it in such a way that they will give you 100% truthful and say, this is happening. They're arguing this, they're arguing that, but they give it to you way too fucking late for you to do anything about it. Case in point, Scott, I was raising the alarm when I was in this little fucking group here. I was raising the alarm about Executive Order 14067, putting us on that global digital currency. Glenn Beck took the fucking story long time ago and didn't talk about it till 3 weeks before it went into effect.
Right.
And I'm just like, dude, you were the perfect person to do so. To raise alarms so people could say, hey, we don't like this shit.
Yeah.
And you just slow rolled that information and kept it fucking quiet for how long? I mean, it's shit like that, man. It's that sleazy shit from the right because they only want to take the information when it's advantageous to them.
Yeah.
The left will throw everything at the wall like a monkey throwing shit. The right's just like, I can let the target go here, but I'm going to catch them later with this.
Well, that's one thing, how you just mentioned that CBDC. I hope that Trump's going to be getting away with that executive order and getting rid of Gary Gensler, like he said he's going to.
I mean, that literally put us on a global. That was another thing Biden did. It was an executive order that put us on a global digital currency that the U.S. has full 100% control over. Now, if you didn't play ball with this global digital currency, you were a threat to U.S. interest. Fast forward a little bit of time, you remember the whole TikTok debacle? The Restrict Act? How the government had full ability to watch and regulate every purchase online? And now the government's giving out free internet? Come on, if the government's paying for it, you ain't going to see whatever the fuck you want to see. You're going to see what they want you to see.
Oh yeah, anything you get for free, you're the product, not the product. You're the product.
I mean, it's that kind of shit. That's the informational warfare that I'm talking about. And that rolls off into psychological because people don't even understand that it's happening. It literally has to take a shock to your system for you to realize, hey, they lied to me about this. What? But once you see that one, you can't stop seeing.
Oh, like Charlemagne's starting to do. He started waking up. He's like, why are they inviting him to? Why are they talking to him? Was this all just politics? Yeah, bro. Everybody's been telling you that.
But I
Well-
thought he was Hitler.
Yeah.
You don't invite Hitler to tea, do you?
Charlemagne's a goddamn
Oh,
idiot,
man.
but there
He is, man.
there are some good ones. There are some smart ones out there that are 100% grifting, but there are some that are absolutely 100% honest. And it's amazing to see because I can spot the difference in them because I know who's buying up what story, what's being jury picked
Anna-
from what information.
Anna Kasparian, she's starting to fucking really have a come around.
Yeah, that's been happening for a minute, and I'm all here for it. She's never going to be a
Yeah.
Republican. I'm never going to be Republican, but at least
Uh.
y'all motherfuckers are making more sense than the other side right now.
I'm what Republican should be.
I think the tide is turning a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
know most of my friends and family. I live in DC. All my neighbors are Democrats. Most of the people I know, and most of them have level 5 Trump derangement syndrome. You can't even talk rationally to them. It's not possible. There's no cure. Rumor is Pfizer's working on a vaccine, but I don't see it coming anytime soon. Maybe it'll bring you down to level 3. But even some of those people are now saying to me stuff like, I feel like I've been lied to by the Democratic Party. And they give one of my friends I was just talking to yesterday, he used the example of Biden's cognitive abilities. And I've been telling this guy for 4 or 5 years that Biden was senile and crazy. And he was standing up for him. No, it's just the right wingers trying to make him look bad. And just the other day, he said to me, since the last year, I feel like my party's been lying to me about Biden's. I said, I said, what are you talking? You were part of the cover up. I told him you were very happy to be part of the cover up until the debate. And then everyone could see. And the party didn't care about the fact that Biden was in mental decline. They cared about was that people saw it. And all of a sudden, he wasn't going to deliver. Right. In sports parlance, he wasn't going to cover. Right. He wasn't going to make the spread. He wasn't going to get the electoral college. He wasn't even going to get the popular vote. Then they jettisoned him, and only then. But some people are coming around.
Right. I think a lot of votes also shifted. I mean, maybe not at first, but whenever they installed Kamala, like they didn't even give anybody a chance. There was no vote, no nothing like that. Just installed her ass. And there was a lot of smart Democrats who were like, what? Like that's not what we do.
Yeah, Obama was one of them. Obama
don't have a say in this
he wanted
democracy?
an open primary.
Yeah.
He's like,
It's like
that is true.
He's like, you're doing what? You're putting her dumbass up? Are you crazy?
Yeah. And then went on to say, black people, you ain't black if you don't vote for her.
Right.
You voted Joe Biden.
Oh, he did.
He did. I love it every time Obama says the word brother. Like, come on. He's the whitest guy that I know. He's whiter than me.
I mean, his wife is blacker than him. And that's a dude.
Definitely. You know what? There was only one time in my life that I felt sorry for Michelle Obama. And it was the inauguration day after the 2016 election, where she had to stand next to Melania, who is a stunningly beautiful woman. And she had on that powder blue outfit with the high neck thing. She just looked so regal. She outdid Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. She was so beautiful. And Michelle Obama was standing there in a muumuu. I felt so sorry for her. Oh.
I mean,
that's great.
That's better than Pelosi and everybody wearing dashikis taking a knee in the Capitol building.
Oh, that was so funny. And
I'd
then the
still
next
be
day,
like,
they were like, the next day they were like,
they had to help her up.
Yeah.
The next day they were like, hey, guess what? Those were owned by slave owners.
That's right.
The shit you're wearing?
I think they were called Kent cloths or something like that. They were from a tribe in Africa who was the slave trader tribe, right? The number one slave trader. That's why they were made of silk, because that tribe was expensive. They were the bougie tribe.
That's when the fucking like Alanis Morissette comes in the corner like, isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
And then have the balls to say y'all are too stupid to get IDs and know what a computer is. That was amazing to me,
man.
Then they're just like, after everything, we're standing behind you. White people are in the front, doing everything, and then Black people are too stupid to get an ID. I was like,
I'll say
what?
this.
Computer, right?
I'll say this. It's nice that Trump got back in. If things are going to start getting interesting. We're going to see what happens.
Oh,
Even though the last 4 years were terrible, it was fucking comedic.
it was, yeah, there was supposed to be the adults being back in charge. No,
Yeah.
it was the toddlers. And they had like the reverse Midas touch. They destroyed everything they touched.
Right? It was like these motherfuckers just learned how to play checkers and shit.
I was
They
thinking,
just learned what a buck is. They have no idea what's going on.
But I will say this though. I honestly think it's an actual fucking cover up for everything that they were doing, all this cultural shit, everything that they threw down our throats. I think it was a cover up to say, hey, look at all this shiny shit. Distract you from the dumb shit here because we're going to do this shit over here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because they were trying to
I don't think
tank.
they really believed or gave a shit. You know, I worked for every presidential administration from Clinton to Biden. And the one thing I noticed, and I was not political for most of my life. I just chopped the wood that was in front of me. I kept my head down. I did
You
my
were the
job.
yes man.
But what I noticed was that the Democrats, they never stopped running for office. They were always pandering to a political base. Every decision they made, they were calculating the politics of it, not what was best for the country. Where the Republicans would get in power and they would just try and run the country, right? And make the decisions that were best. That was the thing that kind of turned me to being more conservative, seeing the hypocrisy, especially during the Obama administration. And then later the Biden administration, the hypocrisy just drove me away.
Oh, there is something I need to bring up for this next little segment here. I just fucking thought about this.
Well, isn't it kind of funny though too? Now that as things have like progressed over time, that McCarthy was kind of right.
And even
I mean,
that kind of worries me though.
Department is one communist too many.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and it's kind of like maybe he wasn't fucking wrong, you know? I mean,
well, I mean that kind of worries me though because that means we allowed it to happen without doing it, and Yuri Bezmenov was right from the very beginning.
Yuri Bezmenov was in fact right. There's no way that man was wrong. He saw what was coming, and he saw the long march through the institutions. There's no doubt that shit was.
He gave him the fucking roadmap to do it, and America was just like, meh.
The fifth column,
that'll never happen.
Universities, right through the schools, and then they've brainwashed the kids. Right, brilliant, smart. We let them do it.
Right.
That's the main thing is we let them do it. Like all this, like we should be accepting of things and like, okay, may just teach a little bit of communism or whatever in college, all that type of stuff. And then, go ahead and push off the bad shit from it and just keep teaching that it can be okay. And then eventually it keeps growing stronger and stronger and stronger. Then guess what you get after a little while? Safe spaces in college. That's where all this other shit comes from.
I agree with I agree with teaching. I agree with making sure that people understand the ideology, but it has to be reinforced with everything behind it. Because if you don't know what the fuck it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, your colleges are communistic fucking areas. You can't speak out or you get fucking expelled. If you write the wrong damn thing, that's your ass on a grade. You speak up and say, hey, the professor touched me. Well, that's everything about you because he's a heralded fucking professor. That's communistic shit right there at the very fucking beginning. But you don't see it because you were never taught that ideology. But I do want to hit this as far as that goes, like I was saying, I do think they're covering it up. And this, I had to hit this back because there was something, I forget exactly what it was. It was something I was listening to Rob. He was talking about something with the border. He said something about the border, and then he mentioned Arizona. And something clicked in my head. And I ran it back like literally multiple times in my head, as much as I could remember about this whole 10-minute fucking video and everything. The audio version, or the audio that was released where Carrie Lake somebody was bribing her to step the fuck down. There was a moment in that just stood out to me because it's thrown in there for absolutely no fucking reason whatsoever. Other than maybe, we're going to talk about some shit. Hey, but what about this real quick? Let me catch you off guard and then hit you with this. That might have been the only reason this went out, but it stuck with me. And then I started putting pieces together with this. Now, we all know the border situation. We know how it's collapsed. It's been wide the fuck open. Ports of entry, the fentanyl crisis, everything that is considered with that. This was from the Kerry Lake shit. Now, this comes into this video, from the whole 10-minute video about this at a roughly around the 50-second mark. This is what I was talking about. This is why it hit me so bad when I was listening to this, because it stood out like a sore thumb. There should have been no reason other than maybe to just like try to catch you off guard for a second that this was thrown out there.
Thanks, world, man. If that stuff that came out last week is right about the cartel stuff, they say the cartel's operating in 50 states right now, like all 50. You know? So
what's going on? Who is it? What?
Cartels are working in all 50 states. So you mean to tell me that the government knows the cartel's been working in all 50 states? At least for, what, a year and a half, 2 years?
Probably.
And then this was the major fucking thing that everybody wanted to talk about. This hit everybody home.
So thank you. Well, this has become a national story. The supposed takeover of some Aurora apartment complexes by a violent Venezuelan gang. This now viral video, shared with us by a former resident of the apartments there at 12th Avenue and Dallas Street, shows a group of armed men entering her neighbor's home.
There are unverified claims that the TDA gang has taken over several apartment buildings. We're talking about Fitzsimmons Place apartments on Colfax and Nome, The Edge at Lowry on 12th in Dallas, and Whispering Pines near Colfax and Chambers. All of those complexes are run by CBZ Management. That's an out-of-state company facing dozens of charges in Aurora Municipal Court. Aurora and Denver police have publicly acknowledged there are TDA gang members in their cities, but they say that gangs' numbers are not large and they operate in isolated areas.
Some believe this.
Isolated areas. Okay. Well, let's run it back to Texas. This was before.
That's
Aurora
funny when
happened.
she says isolated areas. That reminds me of JD Vance talking to that one lady. And she was like, it's just a few places. I mean, it's not all over. Like, what's the fucking big deal, you know?
Do you hear yourself?
Right. They haven't taken over every apartment building. It was only 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But this came before Colorado, ladies and gentlemen.
The hotel has been around since the late 1920s and changed owners. The current owner bought the hotel in 2015 and was granted a certificate of occupancy for the lobby and first floor of the building. The certificate expired in 2018, and the hotel has been operating and seemingly using all of the building since. You can see today that the windows in the upper levels have AC units and some even have the windows open. According to the lawsuit, the hotel has seen many criminal incidents take place, including an incident on the 3rd floor. The lawsuit cites video evidence of an aggravated assault case. Documents say in the video people can be seen partying, drinking, smoking, all while kids were around. The documents also allege prostitution and gang activity allegedly related to the Tren de Aragua gang. All citing the owners have not done much to stop the use of drugs, gang activity, and other illegal activities. The hotel has also failed at least 3 inspections by the El Paso Fire Department. The document stated the hotel has been in a deplorable state since. I walked into the building and there was a very apparent cigarette smell as well as some broken-looking furniture.
That one right there, ladies and gentlemen, in that case, it does come out a little bit further that the owner of that building, the manager, every bit of them, are Tren de Aragua. They bought the property simply for that shit. Now, let's take it to, why is this a thing? There we go. Okay. Let's take it to turf wars in Chicago.
So Venezuelan gang members moving into Chicago have caught the attention of the city's local counterparts, bringing tensions to an all-time high. Our next guest is a former gang member who now runs a violence prevention program and warns that the city may go up in flames, fearing an all-out turf war. Tyrone Muhammad is the founder and CEO of Ex-Cons for community and social change, and he's been kind enough to join us. Now, Tyrone, thanks so much for joining the program. So let's first, before we get into the criminal element, talk about the money that's being spent, because I know you talk about the community and building those Black communities and Hispanic communities in Chicago that were affected before this crisis. They're spending $464 million on this crisis. Can y'all be using that money somewhere else?
You know, I don't know any household, Lawrence, where you yourself would pay my mortgage before you pay your own. That would be considered crazy. So that's the very fact that our government believe, with all the issues and systemic disinvestment that's happening to all these communities throughout America, that you were in our face when, specifically Chicago, where Black voters have voted for one party consistently and religiously, that party would not listen to the voters or the community to say, us first, we should be first, put us first. And the very notion that anyone would have the audacity to think that non-citizens should go before the Black community and the most impoverished communities is asinine.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a slap in the face. So so that's the first part of this problem. The second problem is that you got the gangs that are coming in now. Trinidad de Agua is now fighting with the local gangs, and this is on top of an already problem right now. You got robbery that's up 12%, aggravated battery is up 13%, murder vehicle theft is up 43%, and you inviting them in to go against now the local gangs already in Chicago. Explain to us.
You're not wrong. Don't mind me.
So let me just say this. We just heard about a vice president who said she specialized in locking up and arresting transnational gangs, while the very party that she's a part of, the policies with the sanctuary cities and the border crisis, she supports. And now the influx of it is, which is oxymoronic at the same.
Nah, he's just going off as some random shit, and it kind of goes off really way off topic with that shit right there. But yeah, apparently Chicago gangs are fighting with Venezuelan gangs for control of the territory. Like, that's a good idea, right? Like, that can't go wrong in any way. I mean, but you also have this NYPD concerned over Venezuela gang crime in New York City.
And gang members in the city who have gotten into New York.
Fox 8's Linda Schmidt talked to the NYPD, who says this crime wave is one of their greatest challenges. She joins us live from the newsroom now. Linda, what can you tell us tonight?
Well, you know, basically what you just said right there, this is one of the NYPD's biggest challenges right now. Now, the NYPD expects the migrant Venezuelan gang crimes to actually get worse in this city before it gets better.
They're waving the guns around.
Correct.
Waving guns and flashing gang signs on this video. The NYPD says these are suspected members of the ruthless Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, which has been infiltrating the U.S. for the last 2 years. NYPD Assistant Chief of Detectives Jason Savino telling me it is believed this video was made while the gang members were in Ecuador, and its purpose is to recruit new members.
Then, when you fast forward, you see the same individuals where? In Times Square. So that's our concern.
The NYPD says Tren de Aragua has been making it over the border with the migrant influx and is getting established in New York.
What we do see is they are trying to grow.
The gang has gone from petty crimes like shoplifting and stealing cell phones and jewelry to all-out shootouts in the streets. Alleged gang member Bernardo Raul Mata recently confessing to police that gang members are being instructed to shoot police officers. Mata is charged with shooting 2 officers after they stopped him for riding a moped the wrong way on a one-way street in Queens. In court, an assistant district attorney revealing what Mata told investigators about the gang. Trend Aragua members are smuggling firearms into city shelters inside food delivery packages. That way they don't have to go through the metal detector. Guns being smuggled into migrant shelters in food delivery packages that
they're being smuggled into food delivery packages from your migrant shelters. You know, the same areas that your taxpayer dollars is going to because they're asylum seekers. And then, ladies and gentlemen, let's
Every
track
time I
it.
hear that now, I always think of AOC. It's not illegal to seek asylees.
Right. Bitch cross the border illegally.
Yeah, and I love even Fox referred to them as infiltrating the U.S.
Yeah.
They're not infiltrating. They've been welcomed with
Right.
open arms by both our country and cities like Chicago and New York City. And now they're complaining about them. Well, you welcomed them. You
Right.
opened the doors for them.
Right.
You
They're being
funded
facilitated.
them.
Yeah,
I
they're being
mean,
facilitated. They're
Yep.
coming right through.
That's the better word. Facilitated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. But there's this one right here, and I'm going to take a peek what this goes on here because this one hits close to home to me because I am within 2 hours to 6 hours of every single one of these fucking cities.
All right.
And
yeah,
I
well, that
this.
last Chicago one, I'm right by there. That's why I'm waiting for shit to pop off there. I am literally 45 minutes from Chicago. So I live in Northwest Indiana. If shit starts fucking popping off there, they want to come this way. Yeah, get fucked. I'm in a red state, buddy. We got constitutional carry. Like, you guys ain't gonna come here and try no shit.
The Chicago gangs are standing their ground, but you ain't seen shit when them redneck hillbillies come out of the goddamn out of the hills with their own fucking cannons.
Exactly.
And their
yes.
cannons are not your AKs. Their cannons are their own BMG 50 cals they fucking made.
Yeah,
all right.
And
we got
they know how to shoot. They don't do.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
not
we
pointing
do.
a gun like this.
Exactly. No, we train with them bitches. We know.
Yeah,
we know.
We do.
They know how to
Like,
shoot.
the further you get, the more accurate I get.
Yep.
So yeah. But anyway, I want to hit this up. I'm gonna take a pee real quick. I'll be right back.
Yep. Do it.
State leaders are warning of this, a dangerous gang from Venezuela that's being seen in all major cities in Tennessee.
Well, the TBI says they've been aware of this gang for years now, but now there's an uptick in activity over the last few months.
Our Sam Luther joining us here concerning trends. Sam, state leaders want to see this solved.
Yeah, guys, these are gangs formed from Venezuelan prisons that 2 years ago started showing up in Tennessee. Organized crime focusing on human trafficking that the TBI says is now once again being seen in the volunteer state.
So I want to start off this morning just talking about some concerning trends.
TBI Director David Rausch meeting with the governor, sharing new information about Tren de Aragua,
a Venezuelan gang that is being seen more and more prevalent.
TBI says it's a gang started in a Venezuelan prison 2 years ago. Their members with distinct tattoos were spotted in Tennessee, known primarily for abducting and bringing Venezuelan women to the United States and Tennessee.
In that operation, we recognized a number of the members here trafficking females that they have abducted.
For more than a year, there hasn't been a concern, arresting some and investigators not spotting any more of their criminal activity until recently.
They're back in all of our major cities. They are.
I like how they use Michael Jordan with their thing.
That's where
Jump
they
man.
start.
TBI didn't offer specifics on instances on recent criminal behavior or exactly where this gang has been spotted, saying they've been connected to human trafficking, organized retail theft, and drug crimes across the state.
They will and they have taken on the cartel head on. And so they have, and they're very violent in their efforts.
Adding that every metro area in every big city in the state is believed to have these gang members in them, saying their crimes, including murder, can happen at any time of the day.
They do not hesitate to attack these their opponents in public in broad daylight.
Again, the TBI director says every
This guy looks like a weird version of Elon
area in the state.
A
their
fat-ass version.
to come to that conclusion. As for here in Knoxville, KPD says, as well as the Knox County Sheriff's Office, they both tell me tonight, guys, that they are aware that this gang does exist, but both told me tonight that they are not aware of any active gang members from that one specifically being in this area. Not now.
Well, he doesn't mention the next little video I wanted to hit up. But yeah, the dude's like, yeah, we're here. We're aware that they're here, but they're not active as they plan to take over your cities.
Yeah.
Like that one was weird as fuck to me. Like hearing that. He's like, yeah, they're here. They're gonna do something. They're planning on it. We have every indication of it, but we haven't seen them make a move. So fuck you. I mean, it was, but you can't with this kind of thing. Okay, like I will say this. I'm not gonna say it's like it is for a voter base. Okay, it is for the census. It is for rigging things and giving themselves more power as a byproduct. But I'm gonna say this: it is not 100% for that. And I've brought it up multiple times on the show. Scott knows, but I want to hit Mr. Sweeney with this. The great replacement theory is true, brother. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the color of your skin. You know what it's about?
Tell me.
You remember when women wanted their right to vote?
What a mistake that was. Oh, God. No, to bring it back further, once we let them learn how to read, we were fucked.
Right?
You know, we should have drawn the line at reading and writing. We would have been fine.
As soon as we saw the first chick hit a curb, we should have been like, nope, you ain't getting nothing else. No.
For most of them, you got a point. No, I bring that up because it was at that point they were telling women, like, hey, don't have kids. You know, you get to. My glasses look all kinds of weird and fucked up, and it's just because I'm messing with them. But anyway, so don't have kids because you need to have a stable career. Okay. And then that message turned into free and fair love. Do whatever the fuck you want. Women are bosses. And then that sparked into, of course, you got the baby boomer generation from World War II, the free love generation that wasn't as big as the baby boom generation, but it kind of continued the trend, right? Then all of a sudden, they were saying, we have way too many people and not enough jobs to supply you. So what do? You can kill your baby at will. As long as it's not born, abort your baby no matter what. Avoid the consequence.
Well,
and now their message is to say, well, that child you had, hey, you can sterilize it.
I say, to be fair, that whole thing kind of, well, it was really started to basically get rid of black people, to be honest. But then it was capitalized upon. I'm just gonna be honest about it, but then it was
Margaret
capitalized
Sanger,
upon, so that's why.
yeah. Yeah, Margaret Sanger did put Planned Parenthoods next to black communities. She is an eugenist. That is a thing. You have a point, but however, all of that, because we were overpopulating, we're going to overpopulate the earth. We're going to run out of resources, ladies and gentlemen. We need to stop populating people because we don't have enough jobs for you motherfuckers. Turns into a population crisis to where now the baby boomers are aging the fuck out of the workforce, and that influx of workforce that you've seen is not being replaced.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the color of your skin and everything to do with economics.
Right. Well, and especially I'll be honest, especially more of my kind of industry. I'm a machinist. So like a lot of people are not really into a lot of the industrial areas as much anymore because of technology and all that, which I mean is a good thing. Cool. Get into technology and all that shit, but a lot of the workforces are very as far as like the steel industry and shit, it's getting pretty barren. A lot of people don't know manual stuff anymore and shit, like it's becoming automated. A lot of people aren't going into it. They don't want to do the work. So that's bad for that.
Well, it is. And the more automated it becomes, the more mundane, the more people won't learn the basics, the more we will learn to lose technology. Because, I mean, every bit of human summation to access it You need electricity. If
Yeah.
electricity were gone, we're back in the caveman days.
Yeah.
But to get to my point here of what I was making to him,
Yeah.
here you go. This was the layout of what we are seeing right now. This came in March 21st of 2000 from the United Nations Secretariat themselves. Replacement migration. Is it a solution to a declining and aging populations? Now, fair point. It does say in this is merely a suggestion. We're just suggesting you do this. Okay, what it talks about is it talks about using migration, pulling people from other places around the world to boost your economic workforce. Okay. Now, what really hits me with this is I think it's 70. I got to remember the page numbers. I am so horrible at this. But it goes through like 13, 14 different countries, and every single one of them has a migration problem, except for like Russia and Korea and Japan, and that's because they're handling it in their own damn ways. But where is it? United States of America. Okay. Let me zoom in on this. For those who have been here on this channel, you already know what this is. I'm just going to give the rundown for Joe. The total fertility rate in the United States dropped from 3.5 births per woman in 1950 to 1955 to 2.2 in 1970 to 1975, except for a temporary period between the 1970s and early 1980s when it hovered around 1.8. That was the free love generation. The total fertility rate has continued to be around the two children per woman. Life expectancy birth, meanwhile, has risen from 69 years to 1950 to 1955 to 75 years in 1990 to 1995. As a consequence of these changes, the proportion of population aged 65 or older has risen from 8.3% in 1950 to 12.5% in 1995. And the potential support ratio declined from 7.8% in 1950 to 5.2% in 1995. As a point of comparison, the potential support ratio was 15 in 1900 when 4% of the population was aged 65 years or older. Okay, so they're just giving a point of reference and how they came around this scenario and everything. What really scares me about this is we are between scenario 4 and scenario 5. We've been hovering around scenario 4 for a good long time. Scenario 4 keeps the population size age 15 to 64 constant at its maximum of 192 million that it would reach in 2015, assuming no in-migration after 1995. In order to keep the working age population constant at that level, it would be necessary to have 18 million migrants between 2015 and 2050, which is an average of 513,000 migrants per year by 2050 out of a total population of 316 million people, which is less than what we have now. 25 million or 7.9% would be post 1995 immigrants or their descendants. So damn near 8% of this country would be people from outside of our borders. By 2050, keep up that trend. 8% of this country would be people outside of our borders because we told our people not to have children.
Right.
Now, scenario 5 is where, like I said, it's 316 million in that scenario, which is less than what we have now, being 8.8%, roughly.
Yeah.
We've been hovering at about 400,000, 440,000 roughly every year for a good decade now, up until Biden. But the scenario 5 part is what really fucking bothers me. Scenario 5 keeps the potential support ratio at its 99 value of 5.2 persons aged 15 to 64% for each person aged 65 or older. In order to keep the potential support ratio constant at that level, now they're talking about the baby boomer generation with this, it would be necessary to have 593 million immigrants from 1995 to 2050, an average of 10.8 million per year. By 2050, out of the United States total population of 1.1 billion, 775 million, or 73% would be post 1995 immigrants or their descendants. Do we have a country at that point?
No, that's fucking wild. That is insanity. Oh,
What you have at that point is that you have become the victim of your own success,
yeah.
which will sow the seeds of your demise. What will come next? I don't know, but it won't be what was in the past.
Yeah. That's heinous.
You know, a couple things though that struck me in looking at those numbers. I don't know if there's any effort in there to assess the impact of technology.
Oh, no.
Because there seems to be an
Right.
assumption that we're going to need the same workers we've always had. I don't think that's the case.
No.
As technology improves, we're going to have fewer jobs.
Which means
and you know,
less immigration.
You walk into a McDonald's these days, the menu is there on a computer screen.
Oh
Right?
yeah, there's some automated McDonald's. They've already started putting them out. Yeah.
And so I think that has to be factored in because the impact of technology on the workforce and the number of workers we're going to need is huge. So you got to think about that. And then also, you know, to some extent, look, we are a nation of immigrants. All of us came from fucking somewhere else, right? And so there's nothing wrong with people coming in. What you want to do is you want to vet those people. You want to bring in the right people. And that's not what we've been doing. And Trump talks about this, right? He's like, yeah, we want people with degrees and people who can do things and people who work hard. But what's happening? But countries are emptying out their jails and sending them to us,
right?
And sending their gangs here and criminals.
We want people that
vetting,
right? Well, we want people that are going to come here that are going to add to the place. We don't want shitbags that are going to come here and fuck stuff up. We want people that you're going to actually add to our society and make things better and want to progress and like be better for yourself to actually do good for you and your family to own. Yes, cool, but we don't need shitbags here. We already have enough of those, you know.
I just read some of the testimony from I don't know how to pronounce her name. I think it's Laken Riley.
Yes.
And I had no idea that the man who raped and murdered her had actually been in like a no, they don't call them detention facilities. They were like transit points or something like this, staying at a very nice hotel in New York City. And he applied to go to Georgia, and our taxpayer dollars got that guy a flight to Georgia. And when he gets there, what does he do? He rapes and murders a young woman. You know, that guy should have never been in the United States, but nobody's vetting the people who come in. And what are they doing then? Our taxpayer dollars are flying these people around. It's so disheartening. I think, you know, I don't know if you've talked about this on the show, but I think the most brilliant political move of the last 10 years is when the governor of Texas and Florida, those governors started sending migrants out to the Democratic areas.
Yeah.
And the best one of all is when they sent like 30 illegal aliens out to Martha's Vineyard. And I don't know if you've seen the cut. Somebody did a super cut online and you can see it. It's the residents of Martha's Vineyard, right? All these progressive political elites. Oh, we don't have any room for them out here. This isn't the place for them. There's no room. And then someone did a search online to Airbnbs and they were like, well, here's a $10 million estate on Martha's Vineyard. It's got 18 bedrooms. They're all up for rent. Why don't we put them there? Right? It was a absolutely brilliant political move.
Oh, it was. It made them live their policies. Because if you
and
really
it was
want
only
this,
because for years those motherfuckers were actually saying this is a problem. Stop it. Stop. And then they're just like, no. And then all of a sudden, okay, fine. We'll take them to your point. Oh, human trafficking. Oh, that's what you're doing? Fine. We're going to control the border.
That's
oh,
what
you're doing that?
Yeah.
We're not selling your natural gas now.
Yeah, it's NIMBYism. Not in my backyard. It's okay elsewhere. Not in my backyard.
But yeah, I mean, Glenn kind of hit the nail on the head with the whole thing. That's why I wanted to bring up those news things and everything like that, and to why it is actually happening. So is that not treason? They brought them in and moved them around. Because I will be damned if I actually believe, well, I didn't know they were part of that group as an actual fucking defense.
I think, again, going back to my earlier point, as a policy matter, right? Just as a practical matter, it's treasonous conduct because it's harming our country. That doesn't make it a crime of treason because there are technical elements to that crime, and it doesn't quite fit in my mind. But there are other crimes that probably would fit. And by the way, I see Glenn's watching, so I want to give a shout out to our buddy Glenn. Glenn, you keep that prison wallet tight, my friend. That's exit only, Glenn. You remember that now, all right?
Well, I do want to ask you this. Like, okay,
We're gonna make that into a business party shirt soon. I already have that in my brain. I already started thinking of like a baseball type shirt where it has like the pin, the old school pin style, and it's gonna fucking say something prison wallets. I don't know, like business party business prison wallets or something.
Right. But let me ask. Okay. So you're talking about premise wise, it is a thing. How is not giving aid, or how is giving aid and comfort, taking our American taxpayer dollars, funding them to be able to set themselves up to do whatever the fuck they want, giving them your homes, giving them your housing, giving them your taxpayer dollars, and telling them they're a protected group? You can't do a fucking thing about it. How is that not giving aid and comfort to those who are levying war against you when they're taking over your fucking apartments and your city blocks everywhere?
Yeah, the reason is because if you look at the language, the way it's used in the Constitution, enemy is referring to an enemy in a time of war, which is a time of declared war, which was a very formal act back in those days, right? And so that's why. I mean, but as a practical matter, I don't disagree with you, but as a technical matter, it's never going to meet the legal standard as much as we might want it to. And you know what? And if you try and get it to meet the legal standard, if you do that, you've got to bend the law. You end up being a Joe Biden at that point in a Merrick Garland, the way they twisted laws to go after Trump to make his conduct illegal. And we don't ever want to, as conservatives or just independents or libertarians, we don't ever want to go down that road. We don't want to become like the devil, right? And you got to be careful in fighting the devil, not to become like the devil. And that's why we have to take principled approaches to these laws and not do what the Democrats have done. I mean, look at what they did in the last 4 years. They took all these resources of the federal government, of the FBI, of DOJ, and they focused them to persecute political opponents instead of doing things like going after these Venezuelan gangs. Think of the tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions that could have been put towards going after these gangs, but they don't want to do that because these gangs are here illegally. They're illegal aliens. You don't want to be rounding up those people. You would hurt your political base, right? And so anyway, that's at least that's my thoughts on those things.
Okay, so you're talking about time of war, wartime. Okay, we are in war, no matter how much you want to say. Okay, so Congress hasn't voted for war. You're telling me Congress hasn't voted on fucking war since World War II. Everything's been military police.
Yeah, not even 9/11,
or whatever, right? Everything has been taken out of Congress's hands for that. So you're telling me that I can take all of our state secrets, all of our military secrets. I can wipe DC of all information. I can take it to China, or I can take it to Russia. And because we're not at war, Congress did not declare war. I did not commit treason.
You did not commit treason, but you violated the Espionage Act, Section 794 of the Espionage Act, which carries the death penalty. Yep, that's what I'm telling you.
So you still get the same treatment, dog.
Yeah, you still get the Ethel Rosenberg smoking hairdo.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that because or changes the entire definition completely.
Say that again?
The word or in it. Levy war again, or giving an alternative to.
Read what comes after the or, the whole clause.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me bring it back. It's right here.
Yeah.
Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, alternatively, in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. I'm sorry, I didn't put it on the screen there.
There you go. Yeah.
Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or alternatively, in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act, which the entire country sees this, or in
That I agree with.
confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare punishment of treason, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture. What is corruption of blood? Would that be like I can't literally testify against my own brother, or what does that mean with that?
That's a good fucking
The
question.
joke.
I'll tell you how
go
I
ahead.
read it. And I have no experience with this. I'm just
Oh, by the way, hold
winging
up,
it.
hold up. I'm sorry. Jennifer, thank you for the $10 dono. Have a great night, fam. Stay safe. Have a good night yourself. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would read that to mean that you could punish the person's relatives, blood relatives, that shall not happen.
Okay,
Some
gotcha.
countries would do that.
Okay,
That's
so
true.
attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood. So that way, if my father committed treason, I wouldn't be punished for it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's correct. But
Okay,
go
I
back-
get
That makes sense.
go
Okay, I
back,
get it.
But go back up top where it says, shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies. So the way I read that is adhering to their enemies. That means enemy in time of war. And that means a declared war, not just the war on drugs, right? So that's that's a lawyerly interpretation, but I'm pretty sure that that's what they meant.
Well, I'm going to give you a citizen thing and say that anybody that wants to do me harm is my enemy as an American citizen. And I don't give a damn about lawyer talk, because if Tren de Aragua is trying to take over my city block, you goddamn right they are an enemy of the people.
Well, that's a little different.
As a practical matter, I agree, and I think also, I mean, they've violated laws, right? Just normal laws. You know, they're probably all here illegally. They could be deported for that reason alone. And then, you know,
And
they're
the
walking
government
around apartment
adheres to
buildings with
them, letting
pistols,
them do it.
you know, harassing people and committing all kinds of crimes. And so, you know, I would again encourage you to think about, if you expand a law beyond the point that it was meant to go, you know, what are the downstream ramifications? Because look,
get it.
right now we've got, I think, a party in power that is not going to weaponize DOJ and the FBI. At least that's my hope. And I think there is that expectation that will not happen. But the Democratic Party could be back in power again. And if you expand the definition of treason, they could turn it around and just start prosecuting Republicans.
Oh, yeah.
I look down the road with these things and say, you know, think about the larger ramifications. Like, you know, I talk a lot. I've been giving lectures all over the nation. I just got back from Iowa. I've been asked to go out to California next week. And I get this question a lot, and people, they want payback, right, for the weaponization of DOJ and the FBI. They want to see people prosecuted and go to jail. And I'm sympathetic to that because laws were probably broken in by career people in FBI and the DOJ. But at
The
the same
highest
time,
forms of government, the ones we should uphold, the ones that hold the highest offices,
yes, right,
are the
violated
ones
their
that
oath.
get to shit on my face and get away with it.
Yes,
And I pay their bills.
Right. And so it's just human nature, right? We want that payback. And what I support is an investigation into all of those things and the results of that investigation being made public. So there's transparency. So people know exactly who did what, right? And then those people, at a minimum, are publicly shamed for what they did.
Yeah.
And they will never work in the government again. But if you take the next step and
That's not enough.
prosecute them, you won't be wrong. You won't be wrong. But you got to think about the impact on the country writ large. Like 48% of America still voted for Kamala Harris, as crazy as that is. And if that happens, what's going to happen is those prosecutions will be perceived by almost half the country as solely political payback and weaponization of DOJ and the FBI. That's how they'll be perceived. 95% of the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, they're all going to say that, and they're going to hammer that drum for months. Is it worth the country going through that? I say no. What I would like to see happen is, after an investigation, I would like Trump to pardon these people. I would like him to show mercy to people who showed him no mercy. That's leadership. That's what would be best for the country, in my mind.
Man,
Now, this
you're
is just
not
my
wrong.
opinion, and this is controversial. But
You're not
in my
wrong, but
mind,
you
that's
need to
what's
have
best for
that
the country.
example, because I'm going to be honest. You're not wrong, but you need to have that example, because
Man,
why? What would stop me? Okay, let's say you got caught in some corruption scheme, right? You got caught or you got kicked from your place. What's to stop me from running for office, saying whatever the fuck I want to say to appease the fucking retarded in our community, to get elected, to pick up that torch and keep marching on? The threat of what? I lose my job? I get to fuck you over. I get to destroy your life. I get to do whatever the fuck I want. And you pay for me to do this. And the only fear I have is I don't get to do it anymore.
Right.
That's not, I can't.
Yeah.
You need to have at
I know it's
least an
tough.
example or two
You know,
to
I think
say, we're not
reasonable
going to
people-
tolerate this.
Yeah,
think
but
Go ahead.
I hear what you're saying, Rich. And believe me, I'm always generally 100% on that side too. And I still am pretty much on that side, but hearing what he says too, it's like, do you want to be able to set the course of the country on the right way to be able to fight off Agenda 2030? Because let's be honest, that's what it's coming down to. That's what we're trying to go against. That's the whole reason why you
Okay.
also showed that a little while ago. So do we want to try to be able to reset the country in order to fight that off and make sure that we have as much freedom as possible and the right people in the right places in the highest of offices? Or do we want to create grudges?
Here's what you do. And this kind of takes Joe's kind of aspect into it too.
Yeah.
Throw them through the fucking ringer. Take these motherfuckers to task. Make them think that death is literally on the table. You get that conviction, Trump says, hold up. I pardon you. You fucked up. You went against everything. You know full fucking well it was wrong. You wanted me dead. You tried to kill me. But I don't want you dead simply because I don't want this to propagate any further. No, you fucked up. Let's stop before we become everything that we fought against.
Yeah, and there's also maybe a middle ground. So, for instance, maybe you just take it step by step, right? So Trump comes in, he appoints someone, or Congress does the investigation, but I think it would be better for DOJ. DOJ has more authorities, more power. It would be a more thorough investigation. So they investigate the weaponization of DOJ and the FBI and really the entire executive branch against political opponents. So they do that investigation, and then you just see what the results are. And maybe in some cases, it's not that egregious, or you just determine it's not worth pursuing, but at least you make the facts publicly available. And then maybe in some instances, it's so egregious, you can't ignore it. Right?
Mayorkas.
And so I would support that. But I do think it would need to be an incremental approach, though. And I think you've got to remember the tone
Right.
you set and the leadership example you set. And I would lean towards showing mercy to the people who showed you none, to set the country on the right path and to stay focused on fixing problems going forward and
Right.
not on, punishing the mistakes of the past.
That's my main thing is like that trying to make sure that we stay on the best track possible, because we just got to where we might be pretty good, and then getting too crazy might create a lot of grudges and some bad shit. But like you said, is
Right.
also what Glenn just said over here is like, yeah, really go through all of them. Like really get in depth with what happened and shit. And like, I mean, if that just some shit was so egregious and like nothing I can do but like give you at least some jail or something or whatever
Right.
is needed. But yeah.
I'll be right back. I got to pee again.
It's a really tough issue, but I think in kind of working through the analysis, you have to consider the larger impact on the country.
Right.
And that's what makes it more difficult. But I think you've got to at least factor that in. I wouldn't pretend to know the solution, But I do, me personally, I would like to see Trump, for the most part, showing mercy to the people who showed him none. It would also undercut a lot of the criticism of him, because all of a sudden he's pulled the rug out from all of his opponents, all the Hitler authoritarian revenge stuff. Well, what do they say after he pardons people, right? What do they got left then? Oh, of course they'll find something new. But again, people are starting to wake up to this stuff, right? When they look at the actual facts and compare them to the hateful rhetoric that they're being fed every day by their political party. So it'll be interesting. I wrote a whole book on this. I wrote I was so upset by the raid on Mar-a-Lago and by the indictment of Trump for the classified documents when he did nothing wrong. And I know this because I specialized in these cases for decades. It really upset me. And it also upset me that everything in the media was wrong. Nobody was trying to report the truth. They were just putting political spin on everything. And I thought maybe some people just want to know the truth. And that's why I wrote my book. And what I discovered was something I would have never believed could happen. The extent to which the Biden administration bent over backwards to weaponize FBI and DOJ, the National Archives, really the whole executive branch against their political opponents. And it was for one thing, to retain power. And it scared the hell out of me. And
Glenn said it's a fantastic book. I need to get it. I need to pick that up because I would like to
I'm
read
waiting
it.
for the audio version because my ass can't sit
I get
down
that a
and
lot.
read.
And I keep
If
putting
I
it off.
read, I fall asleep.
I want to do the audio myself because I really want to have, it's my
I wanna
opportunity
hear
to
it.
do the
Wait,
inflection just the way I want it. But I'm
you
still
don't want
working on my
this?
website. I need a paralegal and an assistant. Anybody who's open for the job, please contact me.
Hey,
You don't want this voice reading your book.
what?
I love it.
What kind of assistant are you needing? Because my wife may be looking in that
No,
direction.
I'm thinking a young woman who's single and not
that.
your wife.
There you go.
Does your wife have any sisters?
There you go.
No, she doesn't.
Son of a.
But let's put it this way: she was in the C Cub in fucking 5th grade.
It's a shame she doesn't have any single sisters. If she
My wife
kicks you
is looking at me nervously, like, "What the fuck is happening right now?"
If she kicks you to the curb, tell her to call me.
Rich is like, motherfucker.
You walked right into that one. Walked right
Look,
into it.
if she kicks me to the curb, that means I've done something way too egregious, and I've gone that route. Good luck. That's all I got to say. But yeah, I mean, as far as everything goes, like, you want to say it's wartime, but I cannot believe that. Because if that's true, this will never be a thing in American history again, because Congress will never vote on war again.
Let me give you an example from history. Do you remember Ethel and Julius Rosenberg?
Refresh a little bit.
Ethel and Julius Rosenberg were the people who stole the secrets to the atomic bomb and gave them to the Russians.
Yes.
Their Russian handler was a man named Colonel Rudolph Abel, who there was a movie fairly recently about Abel's prosecution because Abel got caught. Tom Hanks played the lawyer for Abel, James B. Donovan, and a guy named, I think, Mark Rylance played Abel. Mark Rylance got an Academy Award for his performance of Rudolph Abel. And so the Rosenbergs got caught. They were prosecuted, and they got the death penalty. And Ethel Rosenberg literally, her head caught on fire and was smoking. That's why I refer to the Ethel Rosenberg smoking hairdo, because when she got the electric chair, her hair was, I mean, it really puts the P in permanent.
Right?
I would,
man, that's crazy.
But this is my point. They were not prosecuted
for
treason. So think about that.
Right.
Think about that. They were prosecuted under the Espionage Act.
Right.
They were not prosecuted for treason.
Well, that's what's funny is that same last name. What is the Rosenberg family? Just a fucked up family. Susan Rosenberg. She bombed the fucking Capitol, and then was fucking pardoned by goddamn Bill Clinton. Was on the fucking board of BLM. The Rosenbergs are just not a good family.
I don't, well, we at least know 3 examples where the family went wrong.
Yeah.
We need to dive into this because this may be a genetic thing.
Saying.
That's something
I'm
mRNA
not one to point a
technology
finger. I
can
think some
fix.
of my relatives have probably done time, but every family
I've
has a
done
few bad
time.
apples.
Yeah, I'm related to fucking bootleggers and whatnot. Yeah.
So funny because
Yeah.
so do I. I mean, my great grandmother was arrested for bootlegging. Yep,
Nice.
making
My
bathtub
grandfather
jams.
my grandfather he was part of the original NASCAR men. He used to bootleg through Arizona and shit. Yeah, I know his whole tale, dude.
We should get our families together for a reunion. It could be a lot of
Hell
fun.
yeah. Hell yes.
But so okay, so we've come to a whole thing. Premise wise, this is 100% because it does levy war against the people, and it is giving aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States, especially seeing as how they are taking your tax dollars and giving it to every other country when you need it the most. Financial warfare at its finest. I'm sorry, it just I cannot get past the whole wartime thing. The Espionage Act. There's a lot of things that cover it past that. But is there anything that covers this border shit? Is there anything that covers stealing from your taxpayer dollars, everything that's supposed to go to you, giving it to everybody else? Is there anything that covers from that?
I wish I had some comforting words for you, but there are, as Barack Obama once said, elections have consequences, and Biden got elected, and and he chose not to enforce certain laws. He can't be prosecuted for that, and so now
Oh, he actually
and
can't.
so I guess there are times as Americans we want laws to cover everything, but they don't. They just don't cover everything. And for these highest level political officials, what the way to register displeasure is at the ballot box, and that's what happened. And it was pretty resounding that Americans were not pleased with the Biden administration. That is a fact at this point, and so that's where they get their justice. It's not in the criminal justice system because the laws just don't cover everything. And in a sense, I'm glad that they don't, because if they did, every political party would maybe try and prosecute the previous president. And I'm not a fan of that. I am not a fan of that.
I'm not either. I don't want it to happen. The fact that it happened in my lifetime it's number one. It's a stain on America, but yeah. It's an offense to everything that we are. And there's a lot of questions as to how, why, who, what, when, where, and how all of this happened. I don't ever think I'll take it back. I think we will see some semblance of what happened in 2020 and what happened on January 6th, but we're definitely not going to know the full story.
Probably not the full story, but we'll know more than we know now.
Yeah.
And there will be greater transparency, and there will be a different policy going forward. And look, the Trump administration is going to be heavily criticized by the Democratic Party and the 95% of the mainstream media that is controlled by the Democratic Party. So there's a lot to come, and there's a lot of controversy to come. But what Trump can always say is that he's got a mandate because he won the popular vote as well as a landslide in the Electoral College, and he improved in just about every demographic. I predicted this, by the way. I predicted that Trump would win the popular vote and that he would have a landslide in the Electoral College. And the reason I was able to predict that is because of the street that I live on. I live in DC. DC is the stronghold for the Democratic Party. Voted 93% for Kamala, 93% for Biden in 2020. And when Obama ran on my street twice, every house had an Obama sign except mine. And when Hillary ran, maybe 40% of the homes had a Hillary sign. This year on my street, one sign for Harris Waltz. One. And when you can't get enthusiasm in your stronghold, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So that's how I predicted what I predicted.
Nice.
Hold on. We got Jeffsky here says, Joe, I read your book, and one line that stands out to me is on page 118, where you said, I spent a career helping the government bury bodies, figuratively speaking, mostly. Mostly?
Mostly.
There
That's all
wasn't
I
a
can say.
shovel in his hand. That's what he's saying.
That's all I can say.
Mhm.
I can say that that's an accurate statement.
All right, so we got a few questions along the way that have actually come up here.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer asks, what do you think we should watch out for until January 20th?
I think, well, what we have to watch out for, and what is no doubt happening right now, is the Biden administration is doing everything they can do to ram through as many things as they can to achieve radical policy goals and to set landmines for the Trump administration that will then blow up in their face, and to undermine the Trump administration coming in. And so that's what you have to watch out for. And they're probably also trying to seed people throughout government, turning maybe political people into careerists, messing up with the definitions of these different types of employees to get as many of their people in as they can, right? This is what is commonly referred to as the deep state, right? These are career people who are embedded into the government, and who can impact the government in great ways. I mean, I was a pretty senior bureaucrat when I retired. I was the civilian equivalent of a 2 or 3-star general. I was a SIS-4, Senior Intelligence Service 4, and I was a senior bureaucrat. And you know what bureaucrats know how to do? They know how to get things done. They also know how to prevent things from getting done. And the executive branch is a big place, and bureaucrats wield a lot of power. And so those people have to be identified and purged. Maybe you can't fire them, but you can certainly move them to places where they have less influence. And so those are the things we need to watch out for. All the things that are being done right now to undermine the Trump administration before it even starts.
That's already happening. As a matter of fact, the main one I wanted to get into was this. Ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
They're telling you on your own motherfucking house floor, they're going to set up their own goddamn government.
I will be right back.
I'm going to pause it right here for a second. That Fox News host with Pete Hegseth, that motherfucker has a pristine military fucking background. And because he worked for Fox News, that's all you have to fucking latch onto?
It's all they say about him. That's it, right? It's ridiculous.
That motherfucker is the shining example of what we want in our military. And you're just trying to shit on him because he's a Fox News host.
This goes back to the point that you were making earlier in the show about propaganda and how people's opinions are being shaped and directed because people who only get their information from these news outlets, the only thing they know about Hegseth is that he's a Fox News guy. That's it. That's all they've been told. It's all they know, and it's what their opinions are based on. It's despicable.
You're 100% right with that. I mean, you are, but to see this in my lifetime, like, I'm going to be honest, dude. I come from meager means as far as that goes. I grew up in, my mom was liberal, my dad was conservative. There was a whole big hubble above. Like, to the whole point, the only thing that played in my house once they got a divorce was when I lived with my dad, Fox News and Star Trek.
That's right.
And it irritated the shit out of me. That
you're a bitch. No,
that all he would do. Well, no. It irritated the shit out of me that all he would do was watch Fox News. He wouldn't watch anything else. And I get my anger from him. I understand why he wouldn't watch anything else now, because I can't listen to anything without just going into a fit of fucking rage at the stupidity.
Yeah.
I feel his anger and pain. However, at that point in time, like, nothing about my political views growing up and anything has changed except for abortion. How the fuck did it go from me just disagreeing with my father in every aspect to me being what my father was, but nothing changed?
Well, when you're a kid and you're a conservative, you don't have a heart. Whenever you're older and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. It generally tends to be about the weighing scale. About when you start getting older, you start being like, you know what? Oh my God, reality.
Well, I mean, back then, though, that, the Republican Party was a party of war. They were the party of the big corporations. They were party of keeping the government. They were the establishment at that point in time. Everything that I railed against, you're talking about up until, Occupy Wall Street, the 99 against the 1, know, up until that point. And I think that's where everything started to diverge with us as far as that's concerned. But as far as that point, up until then, I was considered a liberal, and I still am by traditional means, is everything they are supposed to be now. But how the fuck am I talking to you instead of people like Kyle Kalinske and fucking David Pakman?
Because American liberals or American liberalism isn't what leftism is or shouldn't have been. Now it's all construed. It's all completely bled over and shit. It just, classic liberals are now conservatives. And then you got to where it's like everything has shifted so much. I mean, shit, they call fucking Republicans racist, but yet Democrats started the KKK. It's like almost nothing makes sense.
Yeah, the parties flip, but they can't flip here with being anti-establishment and anti-war. That can't happen now, right? Huh. But anyway,
anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Well, like whenever I first sat down and I didn't have my camera on yet, and I heard Rich saying, "How did we come to this time?" Whatever else, like that's what I'm saying, because it wasn't 1984 a fucking movie. It wasn't meant to be a fucking hand manual. God damn it! And we're looking at Shadow Cabinet. They're just being outright with it. It's like, this is the most laughable shit I've ever seen in my goddamn life, next to the fucking Ministry of goddamn what was it?
The Ministry of Truth in 1984.
Yes, and then they try to put that shit in our government, and we were all like, no, bro.
Oh my God, that woman was a train wreck. We've all in the last couple of years had our moment of how the hell did we get here? Mine was the raid on Mar-a-Lago. I couldn't believe that the home of a former president was raided by the opposing political party, with 30 armed FBI agents who were authorized to use deadly force. It's really just over a box of documents,
insanity.
It's crazy.
Insanity, dude.
Yes. There we go. We got Glenn Corey over here with a $5. Can you drop Joe's email so people can order his book from him? You ready for that?
Yeah, sure. I got a website. It's easy. SweeneyJB.com. SWEENEY JB.com. And on the website, there's a link to Amazon. You can go to Amazon and buy the book.
Sweet.
And there's also a contact form where you can, if you fill it out, it goes right to my email. A lot of people want signed copies. They send me an email and I respond to them. I tell them, send me a check and where to send it to. And then I send them a signed copy. I'm happy to do it. Also on my website, I got so many comments and I respond to every email, by the way, every email. And I've been getting a lot of questions, and a lot of people think something that I've written is not true. They're like, well, that can't be true. And so I point exactly out to them where it is in a DOJ-IG report or a particular document that was released through FOIA. I used to do a lot of FOIA work for the government. I was the guy with the redacting pen in my hand. So I know how to pick through a FOIA release. And so I found a lot of stuff. I found a lot of stuff in FOIA. And so I'm putting it on my website. I'm putting my research there. I got a big section with photographs and I'm explaining, I got some of the photographs that were taken in Biden's house and I've put them on the website, from the classified documents that he had and stuff like that. And so I'm putting a lot of stuff on there to include stuff that is not in my book because I couldn't write everything that I found that was wrong. I had to kind of triage. So in the book, I just have the really big stuff, but I'm putting additional things on the website.
Well, good. As long as you keep him busy, because you an old ass man, you single as fuck now, and you're just living alone in DC.
Me and my cat Fifi, who's down here.
I think you got
me.
the pass, but you are living behind enemy lines at this point.
I am. Oh, and I in my book, I dedicate a whole chapter to talking about my neighbors in discussions I had with them after the election in 2016. Many people tell me it's their favorite chapter in the book because they've had similar experiences with family members and neighbors and so forth. People with level 5 Trump derangement syndrome. Can you believe he's stealing the mailboxes? I can't believe he's stealing the mailboxes. No, actually, Karen, he's not. That was an Obama era program to refurbish mailboxes. It's not. Trump has nothing to do with it. Oh, but that's not what I saw on The View. So I relate a bunch of those conversations.
Oh my God, that was one of the funniest things ever. Whenever I pointed something out to one of my liberal buddies, I don't remember what it was about, but it was a total lie, and he literally said back to me, "But they can't just lie to us." And I looked at him, I was like, "Are you fucking serious? Did you just say that to me?"
Fucking day of your life, man. Are you kidding me?
Like I felt like Jim. I felt like Jim in the office. Like I wanted to look at a camera and like point at him like, "This guy, did you just said that? They can't lie to us." Holy shit, bro.
They've been lying since media was invented.
Yeah, and it was only like 5 years ago when that happened too. I was like, dude, come on, man. Like, bro.
Before any of this shit popped off. Like
back when the only way to lie was through the print, the hand printing press, like in the Ben Franklin time, and putting a poster up on a tree and screaming at people in the town square. Even back then there was propaganda. And nowadays, of course, now we're all carrying 24/7, injected into our veins, real time hysterias from the political parties.
I find it actually fucking funny that somebody that never really gave a shit about politics, that always fucking hated it, because it was the only thing me and my dad really went toe to toe on. To come up in it, just hating fucking politics and just being here, like, yeah, I don't understand how much of a culture shock that was. I mean, it literally hit me when I watched the good people on both sides fucking, that whole news briefing.
And you saw the big lie.
Right. And then the next day, well, he said this. No, the fuck he didn't. Well, he called good people on both sides. He's calling. No, the fuck he didn't. Because 43 seconds later, the motherfucker, what? And that's when it hit me. And I literally remember it. Because I kicked myself in the fucking ass that night, I watched the thing twice because I stayed home from work. I watched the thing twice, and all I heard was just narcissistic bullshit. The same old Trump, same thing I hate his ass for, you know. And I watched it, and I was just like, okay, so maybe it's a one-off situation. And the news media that just went nuts the fucking next day, and I'm just sitting there, just like, that's bullshit. This is I know you're. And then I looked at myself in the mirror that night, and I saw my father in the reflection.
Fuck.
And I literally said to myself, you son of a bitch, and walked away. And I knew there was no going back after that.
Oh, that's funny.
And I was just like, okay, maybe my dad was right. The bullshit back in the day, no, I don't agree with. And I still don't agree with today with all the shit that we were arguing with. What, back in 2014, 2015, that kind of shit, that things like that. But today is a different fucking story altogether. Like the arguments we had back then are nothing to what we are. They literally look like playground fucking the sandbox bullshit of what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, there's about 70 million Americans who also need to see your dad in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Look, my dad was right for all the wrong reasons, though. And that's what worries me. Looking back on it, every argument that he's made, it was like he was a man before his time because he's just like, he was on the slippery slope kind of thing. And he was right. Because we're here now. We're talking about cutting children's dicks off just because they wear high heels when they're kids.
Right.
Or
right.
having an addictomy because she plays with G.I. Joes. It's that we've come here as a society. We are supposed to be the shining beacon for the rest of the world, and we don't even know what a woman is. Like, this is embarrassing. But there has to be some kind of accountability for the top down. And okay, you both have kind of made me skew my way of thinking about that, because you are right. Because if you go that heavy handed, if you go that route, it will be used against you.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only a matter of time before you step out of that bounds yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think the middle ground should be the heavy-handed approach, just to be like, I forgive you at the end. I think that would be the best route forward with that.
But definitely the heavy investigations and like really going into like what is egregious and unforgivable and what's just like, get the fuck out of here. Like what,
Like
you
putting
can
Tulsi
really,
Gabbard on a fucking terrorist watch list.
yeah,
Yes.
like, come
That's
on now.
unfucking forgivable.
She
All
had
right.
Yeah.
federal marshals following her
That's
on
fucking
flights. It's unbelievable. And
Yeah.
a great example of how off the cliff the Biden administration went.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
And to
That is
be
true.
honest, I would want to investigate heavily into that and say who gave
Yep.
the okay for that.
I
Who
agree.
gave the okay for that?
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
I guarantee you're going to find a higher fucking position than you thought.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, I don't disagree with you, and it won't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you'll find it being directed from up on high.
I
That
bet.
woman
Yeah.
is a threat. And the only reason she's a threat is just because on that 2019 fucking stand, when they were doing the debates, I could literally see it. Roll the whole damn thing back. She was doing great. She was doing great. And then all of a sudden, it's just like she hit a fucking brick wall, and you could see it in her face. She's like, I can't do it. I can't fucking do it anymore. And then she just unloaded on Kamala, who just happened to be the next fucking person online.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what she would have done with Biden. I want to see what she would have done with Bernie. Because goddamn that bitch. I guarantee you that woman knows more than any of us combined.
I'm a big
yeah.
fan. I'm a big Tulsi fan.
I'm in agreement with a lot of people too, saying that she could be the first U.S. president. First U.S. woman president.
She's got my fucking vote. Till
She's
then,
got
she's got
mine.
my sword and fucking
Yeah.
shield, brother.
And until she changes anything else, and what gave her my respect though, over a lot of things was whenever she went on Drinking Bros, and Dan and them actually questioned her like about her Second Amendment stance now and everything. She went into it and she changed a lot of her views, and I respect her more now. She realized that I mean, she had her stance and whatever else. It's like a heartfelt stance. I get the Democrat point of view. It's something, the bleeding heart stance, blah, all that shit. I get it. Believe me, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But when it comes down to the Constitution itself and being able to stand up for what most of the people want that actually understand what is in this country, I think she started leaning more in that way. That's why now she's with Trump and trying to work toward making the shit back to how it should be.
Well, I mean, I will admit her 2A stance I've always had a disagreement with,
Yeah.
but
yeah,
considering she saw the full fucking weight of the federal government coming down on your ass,
yeah,
and she had literally nothing but her reputation to back her up, I guarantee you she understands why we need those guns.
Oh yeah,
Well, it
I think
also
she got a
takes-
wake up call.
It takes a big person to admit they were wrong. And
Yes.
she's admitted that on a number of issues.
Yep.
And she's stood up and said, I was wrong. Now I don't think that way anymore. Now I think this. And I respect that. And there's very few politicians. I mean, look at Biden. Did Biden ever apologize for any of the messes? Oh my God, he never apologized for the withdrawal from Afghanistan. He said it was fine. He was happy with it. Oh, when he got caught with the classified documents, he said he had no regrets on how he handled
Right.
documents. He did everything right.
And all that to preserve his fucking legacy, which fucking gets me because this motherfucker.
He will go down, I think, as the worst president in U.S. history, even worse than Jimmy Carter. I think he will be the worst.
Jimmy Carter lived to see himself succeeded, which is
I know.
what?
Yes.
That motherfucker's rigor mortis in a goddamn wheelchair saying he fucking voted.
Yeah, he's
He
hanging on.
lived.
There's got to be somebody worse than me. I'm just
Right.
hanging in there.
Jimmy Carter's that fried up ass worm in SpongeBob in that fucking wheelchair, man.
Did you guys see that AI video of Kamala Harris giving a speech after she got booted, after she lost the election?
I don't
Are you talking about the one that Gavin Newsom had a fucking come apart about?
No, this is an AI video that was done. It was done by AI, where she's basically saying she goes, Elon Musk, all you people who are against me, yeah, fuck you.
No, I haven't seen that. I gotta check
I
that
can't
out.
believe I didn't even get as many votes as Joe's dusty old ass. It is so fun, and it looks like her, and it sounds like her. Check it out on the internet. It is hilarious.
I would respect her more. I'd be like, all right, I get it. Yeah.
All right. So because I've been drinking and I'm about 7 in, I'm going to go ahead and take a piss. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Joe, give yourself a little shout out, brother. And tell the people where they can find you. And then after that, Scott, if I'm not back, but I should be.
Sure.
Yep.
So again, my book is called Dangerous Injustice: How the Democrats Weaponized DOJ to Protect Biden and Persecute Trump. And I'm an expert on these classified documents cases. I worked on them for years. I worked on the major precedents. I talk about all of them in the book. And then I do a deep analysis of Biden's classified documents case and Trump's, and I compare them to each other. I have a website. It's sweeneyjb.com. And at a minimum, check out the website. That's free. And you'll see a bunch of stuff on there. And I'm putting more stuff on. And as soon as I get done with the website, I'm going to do an audio book. So that's how you can find me. There's a contact form on the website. I respond to every single email I get. Sometimes it takes me a few days, but I respond to everyone. So please reach out. Anything you want to talk about, because these are topics that I'm passionate about. And so please feel free to reach out.
Oh yeah, man. Awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to go to your website and I want to get your book because that sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I enjoy talking to people who don't agree with me. And so if you read the book and you think I got something wrong, let me know. But I'm not a shrinking violet, and I did my research. So if you're going to criticize, come prepared.
Right on.
All right, Scott, what about you, brother? You show up from time to time here.
Yep. Well, you check us out tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, Business Party Podcast. We usual YouTube, Rumble, X, and we are on Twitch as well. I'm not sure exactly what the subject is going to be about tomorrow. We already know, like, all the shit is already, like, we're already kind of boiled out from everything. At least at least everything is kind of over now. We're just getting through some of Trump's picks, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of news to be talking about tomorrow night. And on Fridays, Memedom Kingdom. Check us out. Rich always joins us for that. 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern as usual. And that's just a fun night. It just goes over memes, goes over anything funny that you just want to talk about. And yeah, that's about it for me.
And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot overlook the women behind us. The women with us, I should say, not behind us. The women with us. You got Mama J and Haley Kennington over there with the Pretty Antisocial podcast. They go more cultural and kind of things like that. They're covering the Nick Rekieta, Aaron M. Holt debacle. I've pulled myself back from that because that's way too insane for me anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got that going on. You also got Choices Not Chances with Ryan Rogers. He sits down with military veterans and just kind of talks about things that are going on and how it affects military life and things like that. And he has some
conversations.
He has some conversations y'all need to hear.
Yeah, I like it.
But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate the hell out of every single one of you. And we will go ahead and leave it off with this. Y'all take it easy. We'll see you again very soon.
Comes a president. We can't start our own little
I have
business
a
here.
dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning. These ladies know that I'm sinning, and this is just the beginning. I'm closing in the night inning. There ain't no point in resisting. Living life like a dream. Live it right, that's the thing. Every night, got a team. I've been tied to the scene. Out on stage, here I'm scream. Okay, it's a dream, and I pray as a team. One day, it'll be me. If I want it, then I'll get it. Head down, don't regret it. Push myself to the limit. If I play it, then I win it. I'm just saying, I'm just living for today. For a minute, I don't stay, I just visit. Have no shame, I admit it. Looking at me to see if I succeed, to see if I believe. They're looking up to me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the